and we talk about at Delulu Magic, obviously, the power of changing your thoughts,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that is super important. And there are times that I can shift and I can change, right? If it's like a small thing. But if it's something that you are like feeling in your body,
Of course.
it's almost impossible to just change it with your
You
thoughts.
can't with your mind.
And a long time ago, I used to feel like you could in my
Yeah.
20s and 30s. I'm like, no, I just shift. But really, I was shifting, but I was really like repressing.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, your body's like, I'm not going to let you get away with continuing pushing this down. I'm going to keep coming up
Mm-hmm.
in different ways and being louder and
Yeah.
being this alarm
Yeah.
until you finally hear me.
Oh my.
Welcome to the Delulu Magic Podcast, where we upgrade our mindset and live the most magical versions of our lives. I'm Paola.
And I'm Gabby. And today we're going to be talking about how emotional trauma or experiences affect our bodies. There's tons of research being done, and as of late, that we're all finding out that past experiences, current things that affect us, chronic stress will cause, obviously, will have an effect on your physical and your mental well-being.
All of these things like
Yeah.
being stuck in our body. And I think we see a lot in women, and I used to work with physicians, but seeing so many like more autoimmune diseases in women, right? Which I think you can relate to.
Yeah.
Rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. Women are 2 times as likely to get PTSD compared to men.
Oh.
So I think a lot of times we keep so much in
Yes.
and we don't let it out that it stays in the body, right? Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
book, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah. And I think between like most things that I have found that from reading and learning about them, I probably the past few years as well, that everything said it, it's the repressing, the not talking about things, the pretending everything's okay, living under chronic stressful situations, childhood trauma, which we all have in some extent or whatever. And then just kind of that perpetual of like not dealing with it, like not dealing with those emotions or whatever those things need to be. So then they come and they start to manifest either in your mental well-being, which is kind of like your depression, the big one, anxiety, grief, rage, all the things. And then physically, it will manifest. It will show up. The longer these things are repressed or, put away, it will come at one point or another.
I think sometimes, especially women, like, right, because we repress and don't prioritize ourselves, comes to a time where it's like you wake up and you don't even recognize yourself. You're like, how did I, get a little bitter, a little resentful?
Yes.
And it's all the things that we never said. It's all the things, like when I hear Brene Brown and she was like, choose being uncomfortable over being, is it resentful?
Yeah.
But basically like
Something like
choose
that.
discomfort.
Well, choose discomfort over comfort, because you're really that discomfort, you can grow through that. And it's gonna be most of the time painful and uncomfortable. But if you stay in that other state, it's gonna come and bite you.
Yeah.
And
You have the pain of disconnecting, I guess,
Yes,
from yourself. Right? You
yes.
either have the pain of working through that discomfort or the pain of you didn't say all these things, right? And you kept it all inside.
keep eating,
And then you have the discomfort of like now you have to sit with that
has
and,
come, whatever has come in the physical well-being, in your physical, and I can I will give my examples. I feel like today will be I've had a lot of these things happen for me. I think before my last child was born, I remember going to like a hormone doctor because I've got like hypothyroid and all these things. And I remember she did all this testing. It was just when the beginning of these things were happening. And then I remember vividly like her telling me, you've got an autoimmune disease and you have Hashimoto's. And then the probability of you getting more things with this is very high, whatever's happening. And I was 32. And I remember I walked out of that, the story, but I walked out of that office and I like literally threw the folder in the trash and I was like, she's full of shit. She doesn't even know. I mean, I do, at the time I was like, I do CrossFit. I super clean. I eat nothing but protein. I'm, at my healthiest. I have these 4 kids. I'm a happy person. There's
Mhm.
nothing going on that there was no even thoughts of emotions or that I was repressing anything.
Ye-
So
Yes.
that was like my first kind of like, there's something going on. So then, years go by. I'm like on and off, going through all these, like looking through a rabbit hole, finding a doctor that's going to tell me you don't have an autoimmune disease.
Mm-hmm.
No, every single place was like, girl, you got these things. And then, and then I had to, because of my love of like going in deep of ADHD, that I'm like hyper focused. Then I was like, okay, so how does this work? Obviously it's coming. For a couple of years, it was all about, the food, and it is, but like gluten-free, inflammation, all that stuff. And honestly, the past few years, it just came that it's like your chronic stress. I think I had some like big lab work, and it's this anti-aging doctor that we both know, that he was like, oh yeah, you're just like 5 years ahead of like your
Your age.
age, like your chronic stress, whatever's happening, you are like on this path that isn't, you've got to change something. What is happening? And that I was like, I heard this over 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to listen. And because, I just thought that's not, they don't even know what they're talking about.
Denial's normal. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I denied it, and then I put it in, and then I researched the medical stuff and all that, and I'm like, what can I take? What can I do? But I never was like, oh, there's something in there that is causing this. And then as they started to talk more and more, like I don't know if you introduced me to him, to Gabor Mate, but I remember like reading and hearing him speak a lot, and about when he's like, the big one is like when the body says no.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, my body got to where it was like, no, we're not. We're gonna go in.
Yeah, we're gonna look at this.
We're gonna look at this. We're gonna be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many uncomfortable things, but
I think a lot of it is that you, right? Well, at least I
Yeah.
also went to the physician, right? And, same thing, like a well-known OBGYN, and, she gave me my results, and I'm like, okay. And similar to you,
yeah.
I listened, I kind of took some of the supplements, and then I just kind of, slowly trailed off. And I think in the medical society, right, we're given certain things, right? Not every physician, because there are some like really great functional doctors. But it's like, take this medicine, and we don't think to go, like listening to Gabor Mate and some of these other researchers and physicians, it's going in deeper, right? So when we talk about trauma, I say trauma and Gabby says trauma, but it doesn't mean that we're talking about growing up, with domestic violence, or in an environment where there was, alcoholism, or like severe trauma. Obviously, like that, that
The big
plays a
T
big
trauma.
factor.
But the
But
little T, there's a lot of it.
there's so much, yes, little t, little t trauma, right? Where you were made to feel like, right, you grew up in an environment, and not to our parents' fault, because it was totally, I think, normal back then, and it doesn't even seem bad. And some of these things I've even done, and now I look back and I'm like, I wish I would have known better, right? So you can't, I definitely don't blame, the people that raised us, but it's still a fact that, right, if you're a small child and you're coming to your parent for comfort, let's say something happens in school and they're like, you know what, but you're strong, you suck it up, buttercup, hey, everybody goes through that.
And why are you crying?
Yeah.
Crying.
Why are you crying?
And you want me to give you something to cry about?
Yeah.
That's the big
Or,
one.
you know what, we should go work out. You should, like, let's go. But like in a way of like, or having parents that were, really wanted like super high expectations, right? Certain things that made that child feel like not enough, that they feel like they had to change or had to like repress or suppress certain emotions. Because as a child, what you want the most is this bond between you and your caregivers, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to do whatever it takes for them to love you. And so if a parent is saying, hey, you need to simmer those emotions down, you need to not feel that way, you need to sit down and act in this certain fashion, then that child's going to accommodate and suppress those feelings, because ultimately they just want love from that parent, right? And so what does that cause? That causes you to disconnect from yourself. That causes you to, and I didn't even know that I had disconnected from myself. I don't know if you felt that way, but I didn't even know that I was repressing my emotions. I was just like, no, I'm just strong, and like everybody goes through stuff, and
No, I don't even think I had, truthfully, those words were not even something that was discussed, of how am I feeling emotionally, or what am I going through, or why is my body having these things happen to it, and is it connected to what I'm having, my turmoil inside? Like, That was never a thought that ever occurred to me, you know? And two, I also like, I had another time, like once had a panic attack. My dad has Parkinson's disease, and I was at the dentist and getting some like cleaning. I don't even know what, but I just remember I had my first panic attack, and the dentist was like, "Who can I call? Like, calm down." And she gave me like gas to like, just to calm me down. And I just remember when I sat up, she's like, I don't know you. I don't know what's going on, but you've got to get help. Like something's really wrong. I can tell, and just your body is having like it's melting down on you. Like you've got to figure this out. So I remember I kind of was like, maybe I need therapy. And that at that time I was like, my dad has just been kind of I just found out about him having this disease, and I just got so sad, and I didn't think about how sad I was because I was grieving like all this stuff that was going to happen to him, what's happening to him, how my family's affected. And it was all, a lot of it was me that I kept internal. But I kept it. And then it was like, I had this panic attack. And not only that, my blood pressure started to rise. And I was like, I don't have blood pressure again. I'm like a fit person, right? You look at me, you don't think. I still have high blood pressure, by the way. Got to take a pill every day. And because I live in chronic stress, right? And because that's just how my life has been. So after that, it took months still that I was like, I need to go to a therapist. I need to go talk to somebody because I think I'm going crazy. Like my body, things keep happening. I'm having this panic attack. I don't know what this is. Nobody knows what this is. Am I going crazy? And that was like number two, right? Like that my body was just like, something, you're not doing it. You're not figuring out what is causing all this pain. Once I started the therapy, it helped because I had to acknowledge things, and I had to, there was so much, oh my gosh, so much digging. And, you start with like, you're the child and all the things. And then I was like, oh, that was not
Normal.
it's not, I thought in my version that I had made, mine was a happy, healthy childhood. And when I speak of my own experiences, it's like, no, girl, that is not normal. There was not, but I had already convinced my body and myself mentally
that gaslighting, like it wasn't that bad. Like people go
so
through.
inside, always the worst. Somebody has it worse. Like you cannot complain. And I don't know if I heard it from my parents or I heard it from just like my family or culture, whatever, but it was like, no, there's nothing for you to be having trauma from or being, your body is not getting sick because you have trauma. And it is. Just that is the reality of it. And then, again, going to the books, and I love that everybody's been more open now and that you see it everywhere. You hear it on social media and people are acknowledging. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful because it's like, okay, I'm not going crazy. I didn't do this to myself,
Yeah, I feel it on the anxiety part. Or I don't think I ever had anxiety. I think a lot of people do. They deal with it early on. I think there's, all the pressures. And until probably around COVID it was because when I was reading a book, I'm like, that makes sense. It's when I finally stayed still, right? So I'd always been working and hustling and like,
Yes.
Building a business. Yeah. And like, oh, that doesn't bother me. That's fine. Or, I'm going to choose to focus on this other things. And eventually, like during 2020, I'm like, great, this is amazing. I get to like relax and finally like, enjoy. But sitting still was something I wasn't comfortable. Sitting still, there brings in a lot of thoughts and a lot of emotions that maybe I wasn't comfortable with.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was the first time I felt like that feeling of anxiety and the feeling of like, wait, what is this? Like these chest palpitations and I like can't catch my breath and I need to, lay down. And it was really interesting because I was seeing the therapist at around that time too. And she was like, you have to feel it to heal it. How many times have you heard that? And I was like, always have to feel my emotions to be able to feel, but I don't want to feel them because they feel like really awful. I don't like this at all. But I think also in the body, right? And so, and I don't know if you can speak to that because I think you've spoken a lot with her, but she was like, you have to feel it in your body. And she would ask me like, okay, so think of this, thing that makes you anxious and like feel it in your body. And it's such a strange thing if you're not. It's like it's something you have to practice. Cause I'm like, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know where I feel it. I just feel it like everywhere. To be able to like pinpoint, that,
Exactly.
like what
Well,
that
yeah,
what
I
that
haven't.
feeling is.
So I don't think I've ever, and with therapy and all that, I've had some sessions where we worked through things like that, and I'm able to as we're doing it there, right? But for the most part, I just go through it, right? I just go through it,
Mhm.
and then my body like, here, boom, you weren't paying attention to me,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, oh fudge, here, I'm sorry, I forgot to pay attention to those things, whatever, and feeling it. It was still my own way of avoiding it. Even
Mhm.
as I've been doing all this work, it's still like it has to come. It has come the past 2-3 years where it catches me, and I'm panic attacks in that because I don't want to deal with it, that I'm
Mhm.
still avoiding, and my body is not happy with me.
Mhm.
It's still like we're gonna feel it, we're gonna heal it, and we're gonna go through this process, and we're gonna get on the other side, right? And it still feels like I still feel like I've got it. Like I still can control it.
Mhm.
And you can't. I have not been able to,
Can't
I have
control.
not been able to control anything.
Yes, there's
I
control is
can
an
barely control
illusion.
like my control. Yeah, control is an illusion. Like I I think the biggest one for me obviously was and again I'm like the big example today so everybody can take notice and remember you got to pay attention. Um was, my blood pressure got kind of out of control and I was like going to every doctor and they're like, "No, you're fit, you're healthy, there's nothing wrong with you. This is anxiety." And I'm like, "Okay, everybody says it's anxiety, but I need something for anxiety. Like at least so I'm not feeling all these things. I'm not healing them, but I don't want to feel them. Give me something, give me a pill,
To
tell me
go
something to
away.
do so it will go away and I don't have to do." And I think mine was right before COVID. Before it started with I had a spasm on my left side and everybody, we all get spasms, by the way. It's nothing. Nobody, don't think that you're gonna get this either, because what I got was like from the lottery. Um, it just started, remember, little twitching, and I was like,
Mhm.
it's too much caffeine. I'm stressed out. I don't have enough potassium. Like everything that the internet was telling me was like, this is something I can solve.
Mhm.
I went to like the eye doctor, and she's like, put some drops in. I went to a neurologist, and she like gave me medication for like nerves and seizures, and finally, like, I went to, oh, Facebook, thank you for that. I got on, like, one of my best friends actually let me know. She's like, "Hey, I think it could be this thing," because nobody could figure out what was going on, because by this point, my twitch had almost started to become like Bell's palsy. You remember, it would pull my face up, like my lip and all that. And so I was like, it's Bell's palsy. I mean, again, from stress, da 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 da. Then I get on this Facebook group and it's like, a condition called hemifacial spasm, which is are your seventh nerve, your cranial nerve deep in your brain that was basically spazzing out in there. And when I would be in therapy, she would tell me, this is from your body's telling you something's wrong. Your body, we've got to do more. Like you cannot, you just being in here is not enough.
Mhm.
And you know the story. Then by the time I go through Facebook, then I found a neurosurgeon, had me record myself. I go in, and on January 8th, 2020, right before COVID, I had a craniotomy, which they dug deep in my brain, opened it, and put a little piece of like Teflon to stop the spazzing that was going on in my brain, because I had done so much of not listening,
Mhm.
and I was still like repressing, repressing, repressing. And it was the best thing. I'm successful. I'm here. But there are days that I've had stress, and I believe I tell you when this happens that my scar, now it's been 5 years, it was 2020, my scar will throb, and my scar is healed,
Mhm.
but it will throb and it will be like, remember,
Yeah.
you know, last time you didn't pay attention. So I'm learning, and I think
And
it's just the learning to actually like don't avoid things, go through them, whether it's emotions, whether it's the hard stuff, whatever.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, and I appreciate you sharing that
Yeah.
story because I know it's not a
Yeah.
easy thing to share. It was really difficult,
Yeah.
and I think even I remember even you going through it, and right after, like, I was like, I'm gonna come over, like,
Yeah.
to see you. And you were like, no, like, I'm sure there was like
Yeah.
so much emotion,
Yeah.
right? Like, we beat ourselves up for
Yes.
why didn't I catch this early?
Yeah.
Why didn't I do the work earlier? Right?
Yeah.
There's just so much to it. And I think
Well, and
it's
I felt guilty. Yeah. So go ahead, keep
no
telling me. Yeah.
guilty for what though?
For not paying attention
Hmm.
to like what I needed to do to calm my body, which is, we'll go into that, but doing the things that my body needed, my body.
Yeah.
So whatever was inside, it needed to be healed so the outside could be.
Yeah. And you needed to feel it. And
Yeah.
I think you put me on this person, Dr. Russell Kennedy.
Yeah.
If you don't follow him on Instagram,
Yeah.
Anxiety MD. I believe Anxiety MD will put it in the comments. But he's amazing. And I definitely learned a lot from that, like feeling that and like going into your body.
Yeah.
But also that it's usually a childhood wound, right? Like not being seen, again, the suppressing, not being seen, not being acknowledged, not being heard.
Or too much being put on you.
Yeah, like having to be
Most
the
of us were
person that,
parentified kids, because you're taking care of others. Automatically you go into that role. Or, so it's carrying things already.
yeah, or being like, oh man, my parents are arguing about this thing a lot, like, and you're trying to make everybody happy,
Yeah.
right? So we take on these roles that we weren't meant to take on at, at that age. And so we end up like almost being stuck at that age,
Yes.
right? And we are these adults that are walking through life, but we're being led by our subconscious childhood wounds.
Yeah.
And we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And we've talked before a little bit about reparenting. And he talks a lot about that. He's like, it's a childhood wound, and you almost have to go in and be like, okay, where do I feel it? And what is that like saying to me?
Yeah.
Like, what exactly am I feeling? And talking to that body or talking to yourself, like, if you're feeling anxious because, let's say, money troubles, it's like, I am safe. And, like giving yourself that information, like, you are okay. You're not going to run out of money, whatever it is, right? Or you know, having to be the person that takes everything on. So, kind of reparenting, I think, is like a huge one when you feel anxious. And we talk about at Delulu Magic, obviously, the power of changing your thoughts, right?
Yes.
And that is super important. And there are times that I can shift and I can change, right? If it's like a small thing. But if it's something that you are like feeling in your body, it is,
Of course.
it's almost impossible to just change it with your thoughts.
Can't with your mind.
And a long time ago, I used to feel like you could in my 20s and 30s. I'm like, no, just shift. But really, I was shifting, but I was really like repressing. And after a while, your body's like, I'm not going to let you get away with continuing pushing this down. I'm going to keep coming up in different ways and being louder and being this alarm until you finally hear me.
Oh my gosh.
And then sometimes, it's a lot bigger thing, right? It would have been better if we would have,
Actually
listened
dealt with it at that time, like,
earlier.
oh, I didn't like that, or that hurt my, that hurt me, that whatever, like you process it, right? And then I did yesterday, did a little bit of reading, and it's like, I'm reading, it's called Beyond Anxiety, because I feel anxious a lot, right? Because there's situations in my life. And that talks about how we have to learn how to deal with it, right? Because it's kind of like this creature, this monster that we will feed it as, kind of like a spiral almost. And there's like two parts of our brain, and the left side is very dominant with all that dooms. And if it's always stronger by some reason, right? And most of us live there. I mean, we don't even realize it, because very quickly in the way our world is right now. So it's kind of like knowing, hey, there is this call it creature, whatever there, that wants to come in, and you've got to find a way, whether it's physical or, the mental is going to work when you're a little bit stronger to strengthen your right side, which is your joy, your calm, your peace. That you're like, no, that's not real. No, that's not, over, like seeing over, like the bad stuff coming all the time, or just feeling like the panic attacks, like that right side, you've got to grow it through, like all the examples of kind of, they're not all Delulu, but it's like the mindfulness is very powerful. If I can attest to this, like if you go and you do meditation, which same, 2 years ago you would have asked me, I'm like, I would love to be a meditator, but I was like, hell no. You want me to be quiet and just sit there and what? No, my brain does not like that kind of stuff. And doing it last year and finding like the right guided, I love guided meditation, right? Like I'm not the sit by myself, and I now can, when I'm during my panic attacks, I'm able to kind of be like, okay, find the what I tell you this morning, like I do a lot of laying on the ground and breath work, and then I tell myself find like 3 good things, and three like I have images of 3 things that from the day before, things that make me laugh, and I'm able to kind of calm down, right? But before that, I didn't have that. So anyway, going into using tools, finding tools so you can actually process and deal with it at the time, I think is very critical,
Yes.
right? Because if you don't, I promise nothing good comes from not dealing with it.
Yeah. EMDR, I think it was really also
Yes,
helpful
yeah.
from like, seeing the therapist.
Yeah.
Which is what eye movement,
Something we're desensitizing.
desensitization.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like basic. I mean, it was really interesting,
Yeah.
and for whoever has it done, it's hard to almost describe or like
yeah.
what you're feeling or the process they go through. Some people use lights, but you're kind of just like moving your eyes with something depending on what they have, and while you're focused, yeah, and you're thinking about something,
Yeah.
and I guess it almost like retrains
Yes.
you to get out of that sympathetic nervous
Yes.
pattern, right? Because it is anxiety, and some of these different emotions like that are, driven by the amygdala, right?
Yeah.
Because that's our fear center,
Yeah.
and that's where like everything.
And that's all we have. Like quickly, it comes like, I mean, and then you immediately go into fear, right? Everything is based. It goes in there.
Doomsday. It's like all
Yeah,
the
you're
all
like,
the
it's
bad.
all just like forget it, but going and doing, finding things, will make a difference. So your body's not having to actually. I mean, I think most of us don't even realize how much we suppress on a day-to-day scale.
Yeah.
Like, we're all still like doing life, and we're just gonna get, it's fine. You and I are not we're nowhere like that anymore, but there's a lot of heaviness, and there's still a lot of shame, and there's still a lot of things, and those people, then you're like, that's why you got like high blood pressure. I mean, you got your like shoulder, your knee, whatever, your hip. It's something stuck in there, like it's not moving,
Like process emotion, I think it stays stuck in the body.
Yeah.
And then like the disease to please is also like another big thing, right? And I think, unfortunately, right, I think young girls and women were taught more to go into the society standard of, kind of suppressing and people pleasing.
I don't
More
know.
so
I
than-
think they're doing better than us.
No, now they are.
I think the under 30 crowd, they
Yes.
got it made. I'm like, everybody's like, we're going to give you, and I'm like, I love it. I'm like, please share more.
Yes, I'm like,
We're
tell me
all
your-
like,
tell me your
I was at a dinner with friends, and everybody was, middle age or the age, and I was just saying how we were all, and it was kind of ironic because I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we're going to talk about on Wednesday. But it was about how much we sacrificed, how much we suppressed, how much we were supposed to be these roles, all these things. And now, mid-40s, going into your 50s, it's kind of like, I don't like that. And my body's saying it doesn't like that. Like, let's figure a new path. And it's kind of amazing to see it in us, right? I feel like our mothers and older, some of them are finding their way. That too is phenomenal. But it definitely feel like there's a shift in the generations, and there's so much information that they have, so they're more vulnerable and authentic, and it's kind of like, take me for what I am.
It's refreshing. I love it.
Yeah,
They're comfortable being alone. They go eat by themselves,
yes, and knowing themselves and what they like, and they don't have to adapt or be who somebody else needs them to be. Like that is, my girls are both that way, and I'm like, I for a while I struggled because I was like, maybe you don't need to be so much this or that. But that was my thoughts. I never said them to them ever. But and I'm like, no, be exactly who you need to be. I wouldn't mind. This is all about me and my own repression and depression and what I think this should be like.
That you should do or should not.
Should. Remember my favorite word.
Yeah.
And now it's very nice not to have to do that, because I know that my girls will not have to go through things like I've had in my body and things like that. Because mine started pretty young, and it was from so much suppression and so much pretending everything was okay. My kids don't know what to do when I'm falling apart. because I've done this, like, whatever. Like, I've had my little facade of myself that no, mommy's got it. She's not gonna fall apart. Things are gonna be super bad around, but she is gonna be there. And now when I cry, it's like, but she's so strong.
And it's like, still, I feel like, yeah, things are going to be fine, but it's, it's also okay still to cry and to show that,
I know.
that.
Remember we talked about that at I don't know, the first episode, but it was like learning, like I'm still learning. Like I'm like, when is it gonna stop? Like I thought I might not evolved, it might not prepared. Like I do my meditations, I let my body please cry, get it out so I don't have to like repress anymore, because I don't want any more disease or illness. Like I've I pray a lot right now. I do my meditations. I do my gratitude. I do my tools because I'm like, I am this person that I firmly believe that I know I can heal my body and I can take care of my body. But I also have to go through it. It can't be in avoidance, or it can't be in the extreme of like, um, I don't even know what it would be, but it's like that avoidance and suppression is like where I thrive. And right now I'm in a stage of my life where I'm not avoiding it. I'm gonna face it. And it is painful and it is hurtful and it is wants to do things, but my back doesn't hurt. What does that tell you? When I avoid, when I hide, when I don't want to deal with it, my back feels literally like I have like 100 pounds on my back. And right now I go through things and I'm like, well, it is what it is. I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
And trusting that, I'm releasing it from my body, at least. Whatever the emotion needs to be released.
Yeah.
And I would love to stay in a state of like love and light
and bliss all day.
It's not going to happen.
I mean, that's life. I don't think that, I think the universe sends us beautiful things. I think God gives us an amazing life. And also there are things that are going to make us suffer. And, but our bodies are, it's like, it is our temple. We have one body to take care of, right? And I think God's made it like such a beautiful that you can heal yourself. I think definitely you can through thought, but also like really processing all those emotions, because everything's sitting there like is just stuck. I did this whole thing and I asked Gabby to go, but you didn't go with me. I went all by myself.
Did the second one, but go ahead. I love this. Tell them about this experience.
So I went I've been seeing this on Instagram, of course, because it listens to IG. And I went to this breathwork course. It's called Vitality. Right. So if you haven't heard of it, really great. And it was like the last one that he said he was doing in person. So I think now they're doing it virtual. So I go there. It's like 200 people. I'm in this room. I go by myself. And the videos look kind of crazy. I was like, wait, what am I getting myself into? But I was like, I'm open. Let's just go. And they walk you through this breath work, but it's really intense breath work. You almost feel like you can't catch your breath, right? Like I've done breath work before, but it's like
not that
breathe in for 4, hold for 2, like first thing. No, and it's great, the box breathing, all that kind of thing. But this was like next level, and it was amazing. And there's these parts, just gonna sound crazy. You're like, some people scream, some people cry, right? And of course, I was in my head like, people are gonna hear me, like I'm gonna hear them. This is gonna be like feel really weird. But you get into this groove and it feels like it's almost like an out of body experience. It feels like just really interesting. And like to be able to, like, whether you cry, whatever comes up, right? Being able to just like be free and not like be like, who cares who's judging, or no one's even watching, no one's
everybody's in their own experience.
And then like releasing, like you could definitely feel like just your body releasing some of this energy and some of these old thoughts. And we have to, the world has, we talk about rewiring our brain, right? But honestly, I feel like we're dewiring our brain. I feel like the world when we were younger, right, from 0 to 7 is like when you're most susceptible and you're learning all this. And that's when we were told like, hey, suck it up, don't cry. Hey, go, be strong, or all these different things. Don't necessarily be yourself.
Yeah, be the one for everybody.
Yeah, like make sure everybody's happy. Go, do this or that. And that we start to believe these things. We start to believe that we can't be our whole selves in order to be fully accepted and fully loved. And that is actually like the lie and the thing that was programmed inadvertently, like, right? And then we continue going through life thinking that that's the way it should be, really. So right now, I think we are kind of dewiring or like getting rid of those old
Yeah.
and subconscious beliefs that we don't even know we have that honestly end up sabotaging. We self-sabotage. We push things away that we say like, hey, I want this. I want to be fit and work out and take care of my
Hmm.
body. But also these subconscious beliefs of maybe I'm not worthy or I can't be myself.
I don't have enough time.
I don't have enough.
Well, yeah, it's not important. Like
Yeah,
that's
so many.
something that because you need to be doing for others or you need to be doing XYZ, that's not about you.
Yeah, I'll do that after I get
After
through all
yeah,
this
yeah,
other
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that is an amazing experience. I remember you telling me and how good you felt. And yeah, so things like that, going and finding, I think it makes, of a world of a difference in starting the healing, right? Because I also had I actually bought my mom this book, but it's called What Happened to You.
Mhm.
It's by a doctor and Oprah, and it talks about mostly a lot of like childhood trauma, right? Because what it does, they all agree the same thing that, as you grow, it affects us, neurologically, physically, all the things. And like there is studies like that cancer has come from this, like diabetes, autoimmune, obviously, when we know, neurological, just, sometimes I see it like in my father who has Parkinson's, but he led a really rough life, but, um, he had a lot of childhood trauma and then seeing the disease and what it's done to his brain, similar to I've seen to other people, and I'm like, yeah, you never dealt with all that stuff. So your body just kind of, as the years went by, just kind of you know, kept getting worse and worse and worse. Where then you see a lot of people that are very vulnerable that are doing this even ahead of their time, being authentic, like you said before, and all that. And they're not affected by these diseases,
Mhm.
whether it's like depression and, all the mental stuff that we see right now, right? That we're just bombarded with it. And I firmly believe it's because we're all still suppressing so much.
Mhm.
And we don't want anything to, rock our boat or it's scary. It always goes back to that, the fear and it's scary of like, oh, there's stuff you know, I haven't dealt with
Mhm.
or no, or like the right. I feel like most people I know or whatever would live in no, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
That's
I
for
mean,
sure.
there's other people, no, it's like, and you hear people you love, and you hear stories or you read, and everybody always like it's not that bad because we undermine that whatever's going on, it is because it is our life and our body is feeling that we're absorbing it, right? And then here comes the consequences later because we didn't go and do like what you did and
Yeah.
experience. You didn't seek out your own healing.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's hard to say like I had childhood or for anyone to say like
Yeah,
I think we're in denial about
yeah,
that. I never thought
yeah,
that there was any childhood trauma.
yeah.
Like, right? And even if one like right, you can have two siblings and like again, you're experiencing different parents, different versions of those
Course,
parents. So
yes.
that person's gonna
Yeah,
have a different experience as well.
yeah.
Um, so I definitely think, or even if you feel like you don't have childhood trauma, right? Some people
Mhm.
maybe don't like to have great
Yeah.
childhoods, but as you grow and you, let's say, deal with a breakup or somebody
Well,
gets fired and
I
then you start to build
think
these
there's
little resentments,
yeah.
we have to let those go. Like it is just poisoning us. We don't have to carry that.
Mm.
Like I think we feel like we have to, what's it gonna, what
Yeah.
that person's not
Yeah.
even thinking about you.
We make a bigger deal, like we make our version, and then we start this little thing inside of us, and it becomes like this little thing, and it's in there, and we're
Mhm.
just all full of Oh, I've had those experiences too, where you're just mad, upset, whatever, and I'm gonna hold it on because I'm right. I told you, love and light. That's it. I don't want to live in any of those things. I don't want to carry. Life already gives us so much joy and harmony and like
Mhm.
beautiful things. So to let this stuff take over, it's it's not worth it, It doesn't mean you won't deal with things, but dealing and processing is the way to go,
Mhm.
So you can have the good moments, the calm moments,
Yeah.
the peace in your life that where you're just light shoulders. What did I tell you? I wanted this year to be loose and
Loose
limber.
and limber.
Loose and limber. I didn't want my shoulders in my ears. I didn't want to feel like my hips hurting. I want to be able to go to my yoga class and be able to stretch, like, just
Mhm.
releasing things. And like I said, myself having had situations to my body, I'm still learning. I'm still learning, and I'm going, through things, and I'm going to find my tools, and I'm doing what I need to do to process it so I don't have consequences in a few more years
Yeah.
of me riding that wave of everything's fine. I got this. I don't have
We need to be able to travel and like be walking and hiking and like doing all kinds of things, and we don't want that,
Well, we don't want to carry it. We talk a lot about that. We don't want to carry that bad energy because it's our own bad stuff. Not bad. I won't use the word necessarily bad, but it's just our own stuff. We keep, we're either putting it in this way or back there or whatever, and we've got to slowly, come out. It's got to come. Whatever you need to process it, deal with it. Like I think you've recommended, like people do like therapy. I believe a lot in like mindfulness. Like I know everybody like the breath work. I promise it changes it. Even if a little bit you do, movement, walking, being outdoors,
nature. Oh God,
be in touch with nature. Like we have a friend that told us about grounding and how amazing her experience was, right? Or, what else do you feel like is helpful?
I think one of the things I heard Russell Kennedy say was, when you're feeling that, right, like first it's feeling it, like figuring, okay, I'm going to sit.
Yeah.
Where do I feel it in my body? And like putting kind of like your hands on you, like wherever you feel it.
Yeah.
And breathing into that and like kind of feeling like sending warmth to the area, right? It kind of helps acknowledge it. And then the being like, what is it that you need? And I think slowly, right, for people that are disconnected from themselves, it'll start to kind of start to speak to yourself. Like you can kind of hear, okay, this is what I need, or this is what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
And telling yourself that, and then doing one of the things that basically retrains the nervous system is doing some breath work. So like that breathing where you're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 2, and then breathe out really slowly, like for the count of 6. And do that for about 60 seconds. That's a minute, right?
Yes.
When you're feeling like it, and it absolutely works.
course,
It works better than like sitting there in your thoughts trying to be like, why do I feel this way? And then ruminating, and then the next thought, and then the next
Or your
thought,
heart having palpitations and all the things.
Yeah.
Sweaty hands.
And then the other thing that I did recently, it was like, a couple of weeks ago, and I felt like a little anxious. And it was kind of weird.
No.
And it was the first time. So like, I definitely want to learn more about like somatic exercises. But it was a part where you're right. You talk about moving, and if you have this negative energy or like this unprocessed trauma, it does sit in your body. Actually, like that energy is like stuck in your body. So getting it out. So some people basically they'll kind of like shake out their arms, kind of like jump up and down to kind of actually after you've sat with yourself for a little bit and done that breath work to get that energy.
You gotta get it moving.
That mood.
You gotta get the body moving because we're all made of it, and all of our emotions are they go through. They don't just stay up here. Because that's what I think a lot of people think. Emotions, the brain. Like, it's down to your toes.
Yeah. Sometimes I can talk to Becky, which is the name for my brain, and I can be like, hey, like, I know, thank you so much. I know you're trying to help. And that thought will be like, okay, great, I redirected it. But other times there's like no getting to whatever that is. It's so much more. It's so much deeper, and you definitely have to go deeper for that.
And you got to go through it and allow it.
Yes. And not judge it. That's the other thing. So when you sit there with that feeling, don't judge it like this is a bad feeling or this is it's just a feeling, and that feeling is going to pass. We're just not taught to deal with these feelings, right?
Nobody. Most people don't. I mean, like we said, maybe the younger generations are, but like us, it's like we're learning. You and I are learning.
Yeah.
Like to sit with whatever's happening.
And again, the people who were raised, they didn't know either. When my daughters were younger, and I remember reading this book. I remember going to Barnes and Noble, and they're 16 months apart, and so it's harder when they're really small, right? And I go to the Barnes and Noble, and I'm trying to get books on parenting, because no one teaches you, like, right? We don't go and take courses. Our parents didn't know, so we're all trying to do better. And I got a book, different books, and one was like on timeouts. And I'm like 1, 2, 3 magic timeout, and I regret reading that book because. Now I think about it, and I'm like, man, you're at this age, 6, 7, let's say 8, I can't remember the exact age, and you're doing something I don't like. I put you in timeout and I leave you alone,
Yeah.
right? Now I've just like told you, hey, I don't like the way you're
Your behavior.
acting. I don't like the way you're
Yeah.
behaving. Now I believe in consequences, but
Yeah.
also maybe let's talk about it. Let's,
Let you calm
let's
down.
do something a
Oh,
little
I
bit
I
different.
would totally redo a lot of things, girl. I was, yeah, I was a queen of reading and finding and what was gonna work, and I had 4, so it was like, oh, what worked for one is not for the other, and I was not. There is a lot of moments I am not proud of because I had no idea
Mm-hmm.
how to be like. Really, there should be classes before you even think about having children.
Yes.
With other parents and like kind of like the parents that you kind of want to be like the lifestyle or whatever it is, because so many of us wing it and we go based on that kind of stuff. And then look,
Yeah.
here
How am I
right now.
supposed to show you how
Yeah.
to emotionally
Regulate.
regulate
Yes.
if I'm just like,
No.
peace, like, or right?
You're on your
But
own.
also, I didn't know how to emotionally
No.
regulate at that
Oh,
time.
I know.
So, right,
Mine
we're
is so
looking at
bad.
it, at least for me, right? And some I hear like some
Yeah.
speakers and they're like, we're looking at it from the perspective of the parent. Make me comfortable. Like, I don't like this, that thing that you're doing is not
It's
making.
still
But you're a child. How can I expect you to be like,
well,
cool, I got it. I'm
didn't
just gonna
know. I
like
think a
hold
lot
this
of it
in.
again, we didn't
Yeah.
know about ours. We don't know ourselves.
For sure.
So we're like reenacting whatever we were shown or whatever we read, and then we thought we're doing a better job than what we grew up with.
Yeah.
So that's
And
just
every
automatic.
generation, right, does a
Yeah,
better job.
yeah. You always so I think that is too always like what you said. It's like not being judgmental, not being critical, like being able to have this conversation right now. Like there's things that I wish I hadn't done either.
Yeah.
Because
But I didn't. I learned.
I learned, and and now I try every day to be a better human and a better mother, and it shows, right? Like I feel more confident in things. Not that I'm gonna be perfect or my kids won't say, things, but I could sit right now comfortably and be like, you know what, I'm doing the best I can. And if I'm not,
Mhm.
I've got tools. I will go look for help. I will ask. I will not be, just stuck in this mode of whatever trauma I've got, I'm gonna pass it to you.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
So like all of like most of my healing has been truthfully, I mean, honestly, really for me and because of my children, because I just do not want them, not for one moment, to ever feel the things that I have felt or to carry.
Yeah.
So I try to make, big talk about you got to deal with it. You got to process it. It's okay. It's okay to have all the things, all the emotions, and me be respectful of that too. Because remember, again, I'm a big savior and fixer and what's wrong. So
How do I make you
how do I
happy?
make it go away? Because I'm not comfortable with you being uncomfortable. Whatever issue you have, how can I fix it?
Yeah.
And that's hard, sitting on my hands. And then I know it's a whole little cycle that is beneficial to both of us because I'm not carrying your stuff. I'm letting you process it and deal with it, and you're not absorbing it, and I'm not taking it either.
Yeah.
So we're not harming our bodies or our minds.
Mm-hmm.
We're allowing ourselves to be who we need to be.
Yeah. And being able to like release that at the end of the day, like whatever emotion that was.
Yeah. And then most of them pass. Remember, my email just told me,
Yes.
this too shall pass.
This
Everything
passes.
passes. Things feel heavy and overwhelming, and we put them in. But if we process them and all that, and we just keep remembering that everything passes, the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly, everything goes, and life is very short.
Yes. And if you are out there feeling, pain in your body or anxiety or feeling some of these, issues with the body, there are solutions out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what everybody, and a lot of people feel this
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people don't talk about it.
Yes.
So,
Well, they don't know. They don't know. They don't associate it. Like a lot of people still don't put one in one.
actually, yeah, I'd be like,
Nobody.
what are you
I
talking
would
about?
not.
I'm so busy moving. I've been doing
the
stuff.
busyness kept that away for a long time. And ironically, like this morning when I had my freak out that I had a panic attack come because there was situations, and when I looked at the time, and I just kind of like felt palpitations. It was time for me to change, and it just kept like I could feel. I stopped and I was like, I could feel something's happening like physically in my body,
Mm.
but I didn't think because prior to that. I was like, I'm fine. I texted you. I'm like, I meditated and did my notes. I'll see you soon. I've got all these things to do. And then, as I'm walking, like I'm trying to get to my car, like I felt I just got kind of like lightheaded. I had a smoothie. I spilled it everywhere and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, no, you got to go lay down because something's happening. Like my
Mhm.
body I felt like it was like the first time that I was like, oh, thank you for warning me because I said no. I cannot get in my
Mhm.
car. I cannot do anything today. I am overwhelmed. I've got a lot of, emotional and things going on. So
Mhm.
go sit down for a little bit. Take your time. You're still going to go do the things you need to do, but right now you need to go and do something, which for me is laying on the ground and doing like breath work and
Yeah.
then doing like a little bit of visualization. And then, then I was able to sit up and kind of calm down and,
Yeah. You
it's
listen
a,
to your
I
body, and that's
did,
what
but
we
like
all
today
need to
on
do.
this day, it wasn't like, and I keep saying, okay, universe, you're so funny. Cause I'm the one that kind of said, let's have this topic. And it did. And using those things helped me and I was able to go about and here I am and
Mhm.
um use the tools, find them,
Yes.
ask for, again, ask for help, look, um educate yourself, if you've had, like she said, things that are in your body that feel a little off, try to dig deep, with some work. So everybody just remember that nothing changes unless you do.
Yes. So stay Delulu and make it happen. And we'll see you guys next time.